Hello.
Woo! Twitch!
Yeah.
Hi,
How's
everybody.
Uh-oh. You can't move.
No.
That was direction number 3.
Nope. I think that usually when I say Twitch, I'm yelling at my kids to turn it off, turn it off. And I mean, I'm assuming that everyone here plays video games and has watched Twitch at some point. There's always that sort of 35 and older segment that it's only myself and that guy over there and Frank Underwood from House of Cards watching.
He also plays video games.
Yeah, he does, exactly. But you saw those numbers. I mean, Twitch is very, very, it's impressive. 9.7 million daily users, each watching 106 minutes a day. More than 2 million people stream every month.
That's right.
That's huge. And the purpose today then is to talk about live and the future of live and how Twitch is fast becoming more than just a channel to watch video games. So as people may know, Twitch spun out Justin TV in 2011. 2014 was bought by Amazon for a reported $970 million. And the company's growth is parallel to the rise of video games, the mainstreaming of games. And Emmett Shear, your CEO, he said that our purpose is to be on every video platform around the world. And so today, then, I want to ask Kevin, sort of, how did they get from there to here? What are some of the lessons learned? What are some, what started all? So let's go back to the beginning. Why games? What was it about games that?
Sure. Yeah. So for those that don't know, we started the company as a company called Justin TV, and it was built around one man's crazy idea that his life was going to be interesting enough to broadcast 24/7. Much like at TV, much like Truman Show, only you realize those are actually movies, and real life is kind of boring. And so we expanded that to the Justin TV platform that many people know, which was just a broad live streaming platform. In true sort of easy marketing nomenclature, what we called ourselves back then was sort of YouTube but live, right? And we got the company through the recession miraculously and got kind of bored. And StarCraft 2 beta had come out, and we started playing obsessively. And not only were we playing obsessively, realizing that our productivity was going down and the company was potentially in huge danger as a result of that game, we were watching videos on YouTube and on other live streaming platforms. And finally realized, like, shoot, we are exhibiting a behavior that could be common amongst other players. And started doing some research and found out that gaming was already pretty big on YouTube. It wasn't nearly as big as it is today. But sort of by sheer willpower pushed the company in that direction. And we pitched the board and said, hey, we really want to shift the company in a different direction. And at the time, they thought we were absolutely nuts because it was 2009, towards the end of 2009, early 2010, and we were profitable, which many companies back then weren't, and probably.
And that's also the Great Recession, and
it was the recession, and we, that was like a true
that's where you
test,
stay the
right?
course. You don't change horses.
Companies.
Yeah.
Yes, and we hadn't raised a whole lot. Our competitors had raised a lot more money, but we focused on reducing costs. We focused on actually making money, and what came of that was we owned our own infrastructure. We built our own proprietary live streaming software, but we were also making enough money that the board trusted us to shift the company in a different direction. We actually did 2. So I'll say focus was really important, but we actually did 2 things at once. One became SocialCam, which we spun out, and Autodesk purchased shortly thereafter, and then Twitch remained as part of the larger organization alongside Justin TV. But it really became a thing because we wanted it to be a thing. We felt that there was something here.
But what was, we get, games, right?
Yep.
Passion, you enjoy it, it's fun, you identify, other people like it too. But what was it about live?
Yeah.
To me, that's something that was important.
It's a huge difference, and I think something that we really only started to understand a bit later as it related to games, which is that people like the live experience because it's obviously interactive. You can chat alongside other people while you're watching, and there's real-time feedback there. But most importantly, you can engage with the content creator in a different way, where watching a video on demand, you can comment later. You don't normally go back and check potential. There's not a lot of interaction. It's very asynchronous. For us, not only is the interaction synchronous, but you actually become part of the content. Your chat, your question, your comment might be responded to by the content creator, which means you're actually altering the show. You become part of it. You feel more connected with it. And there's a lot of folks say, well, you're watching like the best players in the world, or you're watching really funny people, or philosophical people, or whatever the case may be, and that's all true. But that engaging experience is something that's very different, where the chat, whether you're contributing yourself or not, actually is part of the content.
Yeah, and how then, so the internet has collapsed time and distance and geographies, but how does live then play out as you push back across borders, across languages, so that someone, here in New Orleans, will they interact with someone in France? And how does language, what about language, chatting is French and English, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Language is one of those interesting things. I mean, we are very, very global. I mean, 33% of our, 35% of our traffic is North America. But Germany, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Brazil are all very big countries for us, Russia. And what we found is people still connect with each other regardless of the language barrier. And that, I think, was sort of the beauty of focusing down on a vertical, so to speak, in gaming. While gaming was our passion, not only did it help us focus the business in one particular direction, and obviously we've expanded outside from gaming since then, but it's content that you can latch onto almost as a universal language, right? So even if you don't necessarily understand everything the broadcaster's saying, you can still appreciate not only the gaming content, but the reactions. A lot of people watch content for those reactions, for those great moments in the gameplay that are either hilarious or funny or very unfortunate. And so that there's a centerpiece that a global audience can really latch onto.
Yeah. And there's also, I think, one way to think about what you have going on is that of these 2 million people streaming each month, there's these sort of micro niche communities around them, and that the whole thing is sort of knitted together. But what I wanted to ask you then about is that these creators, there's opportunities to generate revenue, to support themselves, so the community to support them, either through virtual goods that then could be cashed out, through subscription models. Can you talk a little bit about that, and why this is different than, say, YouTube or other platforms where people try to sell content?
Yeah, I mean, our company mantra is creators first. So everything we build, every policy we change really comes with and from feedback from our creator base and their communities. From a monetization perspective, early on, as we were building Twitch out of Justin TV, we actually talked to users. We didn't really do that with Justin TV. We sort of thought we were the core user, which is every entrepreneur's first major mistake, is thinking that you're the core user. You're not. You were never your core user. You know way too much about what you're building and what your platform is meant to do and solve, that it's not really solving for more mass than yourself. So you really got to tease yourself out of that. So we did finally with Twitch. And so we reached out to creators that were on YouTube, on other live streaming platforms, and said, hey, you don't use Justin TV, why? And we got lots of great and disheartening answers to that. But most importantly, we understood what their motivations were. So with the creator first mentality, we also break that down into money, fame, and love, right?
Money, fame, and love.
Money, fame, and love is sort of the thing.
They'll get you everywhere.
Every time we think about a product, is it driving one of these three things for the creator base? And from a monetization perspective, one of the first things we built was the commercial break. So most platforms did not have anything but timed mid-rolls, which means that mid-rolls might run over a really interesting piece of content. So we didn't want that. So we built the ability for creators to click a button. Okay, from there we expanded into subscriptions. Subscriptions was weird because philosophically, we wanted the content to be free. We felt like this platform should be free and available to anyone to use and consume. So we took a gamble and said, okay, we're going to build this product where people can pay for free content, which makes no sense. But alongside that payment, you get some small entitlements. You get emoticons in chat, which are not to be underrepresented. I mean, that's obviously super valuable. Many messaging companies make a great majority of their money from stickers. So there's value there. But when we poll the audience, why did they spend $4.99 when they could have just watched for free? They wanted to support the streamer. The 90% plus response was, this is my selected entertainment.
That's what I was talking about, the community.
Right? This is, yeah, I want to either, the emotion might be, I want to be like this person. I aspire to be able to make money by creating content around my favorite video game, or just they're my chosen entertainment. If I could subscribe to them through some other means, I might do that. So we built that. Then we built Bits and Shearing, which is our virtual good that allows for essentially like a tipping mentality, which is a big industry largely run through third parties right now that we wanted to build a better experience around. Then we launched game sales recently, and then we have.
And the game sales that came from the publishers, were they the creators in this?
Yeah, it was sort of one of
the
those
users wanting to buy the games.
Yeah, both I think. I mean, it was one of those things that was like super obvious for us to do in the sense that people are playing and watching a lot on the platform. So it just made sense to close that loop. It just took us a while to build it, right? We wanted to build a really good experience. We wanted to make sure that the creators actually benefited from that, so they get 5% of all game sales, right? And a lot of people were doing that already through affiliates programs, but we wanted to make it a better, more sort of integrated experience into the site that doesn't disrupt the viewing experience or the chatting experience. But the ultimate goal for Twitch with monetization is really, it's content creator elected, right? You can turn on all of them, you can turn on none of them. It's really up to you. Like regardless, it's a free platform. Obviously, we'd love for you to figure out some way to make money that makes sense for you and the show and the interaction you want, right? Some people don't like running commercials because they might be interruptive. They realize later, like running commercials is a great supplementary income thing, so they start running them later. But really, it's about offering selection and choice for the creator base.
And then, are there creators? I mean, is there some of them who are rising to the top and making a lot of money doing this?
Yeah, we famously have some folks that have spoken out publicly about it. I mean, some of them are making $2 million a year, right, from the safety of their own home. So that's really cool. And it's really interesting to see the mix. Like some of the top, you look at the top 10, not all of them make all their money from one mechanism versus another. Like some are really good at selling subscriptions and providing a lot of value for subscribers, and some are just, really good at amassing a large audience and running ads.
And you've recently started moving beyond video games.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Cooking classes, I've checked some of them out. And tell us about that. Why do that? I mean, and what makes you think that Twitch can do it where others have tried to go broad and have failed?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think about it a lot like we're sort of moving in the opposite direction of a lot of platforms, right? Although we already moved in the direction of Focus and, from Justin TV, this broad general platform to Focus, and now we're sort of expanding into those relevant adjacencies. But a lot of why we launched Creative and IRL and Social Eating was for feedback, as usual. And I say that a lot, and a lot of people,
of course, slow down. You said you launched it for feedback?
We launched it from feedback.
Oh, from feedback.
From our community.
From the users.
Yes. So Creative was something a lot of streamers were actually doing. So if you get to the upper tiers of a game like League of Legends or Dota 2 or whatever, your queue time between games is 30 minutes to an hour. Well, what are you going to do? Just sit there, or what can you do? Play a different game? A lot of folks actually opened up Photoshop because they're graphics designers, or pulled up a paint canvas and started painting, or made music. So we said, well, this is a behavior we're seeing exhibited, and the viewers seem to really like it. And the feedback from those partners were basically, hey, can you just allow this to happen? And we're like, sure, this makes sense. So we launched an entire category with Creative. And really, we kind of did two things with that category launch. One was launch it, and two was actually test what ended up being the Bob Ross Marathon. So what better way to introduce this concept of sharing the process of creation and making of art than
it was
OG himself.
Yeah.
And it worked, and it taught us that this old content.
It was old,
that hadn't seen light of day in forever, probably. I mean, 20, 30 years, worked.
So that's not live content, but it still became social.
But streamed live, right? Broadcast as if it was a marathon, and we showed every episode back to back. And what was really fun about it was people almost reacted to it, interacted with each other as if it was live. And at the end, people sent us notes like, bring Bob back. And we're like, sorry, he's not on this planet anymore. And people launch things like Find Steve Ross, like his
He's always with
son.
us, though. He's always with us.
It's true. He is always with us. But a lot of cool things happen. I mean, all these memes popped up, right? And you see the way people interact in chat. And this is something that's truly unique to Twitch chat, where the community tells their own story. And what's great about Bob Ross and a lot of TV shows back in the 80s and 90s, really, is that it's super formulaic, right? So it's predictable in terms of what's going to happen. So every time the new episode starts, he puts the first touch of paint to the canvas. Everyone in chat says "ruined," as if he just ruined this beautiful, immaculate canvas. And then by the end, everyone says saved, right? And then there's happy trees and all
They're
these
doing
things.
waves. They're doing
and like the meme creation is
waves.
ridiculous around stuff like that, right?
And
we
what,
did Power
what
Rangers
about
later.
the Power Rangers?
Yeah, so Power Rangers was super fun too. A different kind of experiment, not with like any launch in mind, but just another test of content we thought would resonate well with the
Also,
audience.
yeah, taking back.
And what was really cool about it is, I don't know if you guys all watch Power Rangers, but at the end of the day, it's like not, I think it's great television, but really it's like teenagers expressing a bunch of angst over silly topics and then putting on spandex to fight monsters. But there was this one hilarious episode that popped up that I was watching where the monster that's summoned is the Pluticorn. And the Pluticorn sort of exemplifies everything that's wrong with the world. Pollution. Back then it was like the hole in the ozone layer and like the lack of recycling and so on. And so the Rangers are all like doing this whole cleaning up the park thing, and they're doing this like big recycle campaign at campus. But every time the Pluticorn showed up on screen, chat went fake news, fake news, fake news, and they blew up. And we're like, okay, so you're taking like sort of what's current and appending it to this old concept. And it reminded me that also like TV used to actually try to send a good message, right? Not that it doesn't all the time, but less so than it used to. But what's cool about that is a lot of media companies are saying, hey, look, we got thousands and thousands of archive videos. What do you think will work? What will resonate? So
And so what do you think won't work? Or what, have you tried some stuff that's failed in terms of?
We haven't experimented a lot. I mean, it was Bob Ross. We did Julia Child. We did a few other food shows. Cosmos was running last week, and then we've got a couple of other things coming up on the horizon. We haven't done enough experiments to figure out what hasn't really worked. I'd say the Power Rangers Marathon, maybe the maiden takeaway was like very long. Right. It was like 700 something episodes. It's a lot of Power Rangers. It's been around since 1993. I didn't even realize that until we did the deal. But no, I think it's worth experimenting, right? And we don't really know what's going to work, but for now, we do want to focus on adjacencies, right? Like you think about
adjacencies to the
gaming,
okay.
right? Yeah, if you like gaming, there's high indexing with comics and nerd culture, I guess you could say, fandom.
What about? I mean, I have to ask this: would Amazon Prime put content onto Twitch?
So we've tested a couple things with Amazon Prime. So they did this pilots program.
Yeah.
So we did 2 pilot marathons. The first one was with Jean-Claude Van Johnson, or it's like actually it's kind of a funny show. And then The Tick. So they brought back a real live-action version of the Tick as a test, and then we did another one recently with like Legend of Master Legend and a few other pilots. And what's cool about those experiments is we get a lot of great feedback, right? So that we survey after to see like what would you watch? Would you watch like an entire series of any of these things? We get pretty good survey responses. So yeah, we're testing some stuff with them as well.
And sort of looking for evidence of, I'll call it the mainstreaming of video games. Is there what's the overlap between Twitch Prime and Amazon Prime?
Well, Twitch Prime's pretty new, and it started off as like a 20% off discount as a test, and then we started bringing in interesting gaming content on a monthly basis. So it's still, we're still kind of honing in on what exactly that product's going to look like. But the thesis is why not another benefit, and along with all the other great Prime benefits, and figuring out what it is that Amazon Prime can really mean for the gaming population, for the Twitch population. So we're still kind of, figuring that out.
Right,
more and more.
but a lot of this content presumably wouldn't be live though.
The Amazon Prime stuff. Yeah, it's not live now. I mean, they don't really have like a strong live program there yet, although they're certainly talking about it, especially with things like the NFL that just popped up. That's going to Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
But we're talking to them more and more. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And speaking of live, I mean, I have to bring it up that there's been some problems, right? So Facebook Live has horrific examples of murders, rape, assault, going live. The video game world is sort of also rife in some ways with trolls and Gamergate, sexist jerks, and I'd say that Twitch has managed to keep things pretty clean and has really done a good job at that. And how do you do that?
Yeah. I mean,
or how, or do you? Am I being naive? And there's actually.
No, we do. I mean, a lot of it is really just, every company takes a different approach, right? Like we're pretty hands-on with this type of policy stuff, and we've been around for 10 years now, and no stranger to this world. The good and the bad about the internet is that it really amplifies the good and bad of humanity, right? And it's a fine line to walk where it's you start getting into censorship or you get into sort of over-policing of content. But when it comes to things like you mentioned, like violent acts, obviously we have strong policies against it. but we have tools and we have a team. So there's human moderation.
Yeah.
So when it comes to harassment and trolling, we have many different tools that content creators can use to moderate chat. One is human moderation. So we have you can elect users as moderators or editors that have banning and sort of line removal tools from chat. We recently built and released something called AutoMod.
Oh, excuse me,
AutoMod.
Yep.
So we tested that actually with the Republican and Democratic national conventions, which was a really cool place to test it. And what was interesting is the feedback we got from the staff was that Twitch was the only place that you could actually have a conversation. They actually had to turn chat off on other platforms because it was moderated.
Yeah.
Now it's all machine learning, natural language processing, and it's obviously continually learning every day. And you have the option to turn that slider on all the way, where it's like really strong moderation, or you can kind of turn it back. And so we leave it up to the content creator to determine like what they want their community to feel like. But we take it very seriously. We're constantly trying to innovate new tools there. But we do have a 24/7 support staff too, right? So and community flagging. So for those that don't elect moderators, viewers can flag content as inappropriate or objectionable or harassing or racist or whatever. And then that goes into our 24/7 team of moderators. They respond within 3 to 5 minutes. So I think a lot of what the media's been talking about in terms of Facebook, like you mentioned, is that the reaction time's not really there. So we react, we try to push this down as fast as possible. We're at about 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, when we'll go to a stream and determine what's going on. But if we get threats or suicide notices, we do react to those very quickly, notify the authorities. So we're very proactive there.
Right.
But it's something we've learned to do over 10 years.
Sure. What and just thinking about the overall growth of Twitch has been talking about the media for a moment. I think in my view, a lot of media companies made mistakes by sort of just trying to push their content out to every single social channel, be everywhere, wherever a user or probably a reader might be, to reach him or her with that story for free and just all that. Whereas you guys are sort of, in some ways, the old model, I'll call it, building a destination, aggregating a big audience, understanding the audience, and then sort of going slowly broad there. And some of the tools you're talking about, I mean, are you in conversation with media companies who would want to use the payment tools or perhaps the AutoMod, the moderation tool you just described? And P.S. Amazon owns it, Washington Post.
Right. Yeah. No, we definitely have. I mean, we've gotten a lot of inquiries lately from media companies, traditional and new, about using our platform. And while we did want to build a destination platform with discovery and like great social mechanisms, we also have a embed API, so you can put it on your site. And we want to always expand on that embed API to bring the interactive stuff there.
VentureBeat uses Twitch all the time. Yes. 2 million views.
Excellent. But yeah, no. I mean, I think the interaction is obviously interesting. But while I think the broad approach is good, right, for a media company to put stuff on as many platforms as possible, live is different. And I know it's like you take it with a grain of salt for me because I work at Twitch, but managing multiple live audiences is hard. And I think what our audience really likes is that interactivity. They want to be acknowledged that you're there and listening and you're going to interact with them. You might answer their questions. You might just acknowledge a comment in chat. You might play games with them, but as a media company, it's more just that acknowledgement and that even if it's light interaction, managing it across multiple platforms is hard, right? So our goal there for media companies, as we start to engage with more, is to not only make sure that interaction makes sense and there's data there that helps you understand how you should maybe alter your content if needed for a live audience, but to really build all those monetization tools. And I'd say we haven't really tested a lot of the new ones yet with traditional media companies, but we're excited to, right? I think it could work.
And also just talking about traditional media companies right now, the cable industry, people are talking about over-the-top programming, and I was thinking about Twitch, with this with your infrastructure and the opportunity to layer in new types of content that makes sense for your audience, you're sort of going over the top.
Right.
You're your own sort of umbrella broadcast system in many ways. So what's the future of Twitch? What's the future of live?
Yeah, it's something we think about a lot. I mean, I think right now we're thinking about adjacencies, right? We have this core audience of gamers who expect to see gaming content, who like these adjacencies like creative and IRL, which is that really taught us, that desire to have these like adjacent interests be.
But who would have guessed cooking? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, the social eating trend, which is not really the cooking trend.
Needlepoint is next.
You never know, right?
Knitting?
I mean, the thing is, people have multiple hobbies, and I think what's really cool about Twitch is it gives you insight into the person, not just like a specific hobby. And that I think was why we got this great community feedback of like, well, they don't always only play games. Like, what else do they do? Let's see, right? They want to interact with that human-to-human interaction and really understand what that person is like, and either you find empathy or compassion, or you just find entertainment, right? It all depends on the audience member. But as we extend, I think that the fundamental difference between Twitch and a lot of other platforms is what people really tune in for is that participatory viewing, that participatory experience. It's more programmed content versus on-demand. It is programmed content versus on-demand content, right? And I think that is why people found a lot of interest in Bob Ross and Power Rangers and Julia Child and those types of experiences, because we I know I'm 35, so I grew up with TV in the 90s, super formulaic, but you sit there, you watch, you know exactly what time to tune in, and the next day you go talk about it at school or with your friends or whatever. And like that is somewhat lost on this current generation that's growing up with binge watching and so on. So I think there's something there. There's something there that we're still trying to figure out, like what can we really bring back to that traditional TV program experience. I was told that at 000 we're supposed to boogie.
So we're out of time, and we're going to have to watch this on Twitch then. All right. Well, thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Blaise. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Enjoy New Orleans.